Today, I want to talk about bass and I want to talk about picks. I'm sick and tired of the elites in the bass establishment saying that fingers are the only valid way to play. I'm here to defend pick bass and tell you why it's actually my favorite way to record bass guitar. All right, let's just get all the caveats out of the way. Of course, it depends. Of course, it depends on the song and the genre of music and the player and the kind of sound you want. All these things. Of course, there are great players who play with all sorts of different techniques and all sorts of different styles, and they're all fantastic. But I feel like pick is a little bit of an underdog, and it deserves to at least be on equal status with fingerstyle bass. And I'm just going to overcompensate and put my stake in the ground, say team pick forever is the best way. Team pick, hashtag team pick. So what is it about pick bass that I like so much? It comes down to three things: the tone, the consistency, and the control. Yeah, this applies to other styles of playing bass as well, but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about playing with a pick. The stuff I'm talking about is generally going to be in the context of rock and metal in their various subgenres, because that's the stuff that I usually record and work on. Let's start with the tone. In general, compared to fingerstyle, with a pick you're going to get more attack, a sharper transient, more high end, and more high mid-range. All this combines for a bass guitar tone that cuts through the mix a lot more, especially if you're competing with a bunch of distorted guitars. If you want the bass to be audible on its own, this can be really important. If you're using distortion, this becomes even more important because the last thing you want is too much low end and low mid-range to muddy up a distorted bass tone. If clarity is what you're looking after, pick is definitely the way to go. As far as consistency, I find picks way more reliable. A lot of this is due to the pick compression, which I'll talk about later. But consistency is super important for bass. With a pick, you have even attack and you have even volume of individual notes. If you're feeding a bass amp, if you're feeding a compressor, and you want it to always react the same to every note you play, then consistency is paramount. Finally, control. Playing with the pick gives you so much control because simply by changing out which kind of pick you're using, you can change the tone, you can change the volume, and you can change the feel of the bass with everything else staying exactly the same. And there are so many different options to choose from. Actually, choosing what kind of pick you use on bass is a really important decision. So what kind of pick should you use? A lot of people might go for something like this. This is a Dunlap Big Stubby. I think the logic is that, a bass is like a bigger guitar, so I should use a really big pick. I don't agree. I think you're missing out on a big advantage of playing bass with a pick, which is pick compression. So let me show you what I mean by that. This is one of the thinner picks I have around, which makes it a good way to show this example. So when you strike the string, it doesn't instantly flick over. It's going to bend first and then flick. And depending on how thick your pick is, how much it will bend before it flicks can really change. And you're going to kind of hit a limit where no matter how much harder you pick the bass, it's just going to bend more. It's not actually going to give you really a lot more volume. And that's what I mean by pick compression. You can pick as hard as you want, and you're going to kind of hit a ceiling where you keep getting consistent attack and consistent volume, no matter how hard you play past a certain point. And that is what I love. And if you find a pick that suits your playing style, so you can be right on the edge, so when you're picking hard, you know you're always going to get a consistent hard pick, but you can dial it back and have a lot of control over your dynamics. That is what I love about playing bass with the pick. In order to demonstrate this, I'm going to pick through some notes on the bass with 3 different picks. I've got this thin floppy guy. I've got this medium 0.88, which is what I prefer to play bass with. And I've got the Big Stubby. And I'm going to show you this pick compression in action. Do you like pick? Do you like fingers? What do you like and why? What do you think sounds better? Playing bass with a pick, is it blasphemy? Let me know what you think.